I think right now we're basically just going to go straight into the panel discussions. Just a sounding note of warning. Essentially, we're not going to be focusing on all categories of housing. Our focus will specifically be on mass housing, affordable housing. Okay, so in the context of all the questions, we should ensure that those specific solutions should be tailored towards mass housing. Secondly, I think everybody's in agreement about the issues. We know the issues about land, about cost of construction, and about very high cost of financing. So again, I think what we need to be doing is to be just talking about solutions and how what alternative models or structures we can adopt to basically deal with this significant issue. And if it is true that Nigeria has a deficit of almost about 17 million housing units, how do we deal with that? How do we use that for poverty alleviation? So I'm going to be going straight into the panel discussion right now, starting with Hakeem. We know that UPDC obviously focuses on commercial housing. So the question essentially will be to you, Hakeem, what would encourage you to go into mass housing? I know that you are operating some joint venture partnerships with some state governments. Can you give us some highlights about those partnerships and what specific factors will be encouraging for you to do mass housing on a very large scale?
Okay, thank you very much, Dapo. I think the reality of the matter is that whether you talk of housing, whether you talk of mass housing or commercial housing, the issues are basically the same. And I think that since the topic for this discussion is how to accelerate housing development in Ogun State, I think there are three critical stakeholders in the value chain of housing, and their decisions will determine whether or not you are able to accelerate. That decision will determine whether you accelerate or whether you de-accelerate housing development. Number one is the developer, number two is the financier, number three is the off-takers. These are the three critical stakeholders. There are other stakeholders, but these are the people who determine what happens in that value chain. And I think that if we must accelerate housing development, we must understand the issues that these people face and see how we speak directly to those issues. And I know that yesterday there was a lot of discussion about titling and things like that, but we cannot run away from the issue of title. I say always that the greatest impediment to housing development in this country is uncertainty of title, both for the developer, both for the financier, and both for the off-taker. The developer wants to put his money in a development where the title is secure. The financier wants to create a charge over a property that has a guaranteed title. The off-taker wants to buy from an estate where the title is secure. But the reality of the matter in this country today is that there's no point in that value chain that you can beat your chest and say that you have an indivisible title to your land. And that's an area that I believe that as a government we must focus. We must create that framework that at some point will give some guarantee of title. It's been done in other jurisdictions, and that is what we have to focus upon. Number two is permitting and approval. Whether you're talking commercial real estate, you're talking of mass housing, for me as a developer, the process of permitting and approval is very critical. We're looking for a process which is not time consuming, which is friendly, which is open, which is very, very transparent. If we create that platform, especially for mass housing, we cannot use the same window for commercial housing, for mass housing. In other parts of the world, what government does is to create a separate window where we put a lot of incentives on the table. Let's face it, investment capital is rational. You want to go to the place where you get your return and where you get easy access to what you need to develop. So I think that those are two critical factors. He also mentioned about JVs. Currently, we are doing 2 JVs with 2 state governments, total value 15 billion, the 2 projects. What we have also discovered is that it is possible to work with state government, whereby the state government contributes land and infrastructure as its own equity. So in these 2 models that we're doing, we have created the right governance structure. We have created 2 SPVs. The 2 shareholders is our company and those state governments. We have created a proper board, proper control. What the government puts on the table is land plus infrastructure, which is charged to the cost of the project. It's our responsibility to design, to project manage, to deliver. We both market, we share the units, or we share the profit, as the case may be. So I think that if we're able to look at how to create these platforms we can accelerate housing development. I think I'll just stop there for now.
All right. Thank you very much, okay. Next is Joe. As the CEO of Lafarge, what exactly is going on with the issue about the price of cement? It is estimated that almost about 80% of building material input is imported into the country. But, you know, now we have sufficiency in local cement production. What exactly is going on?
Yeah, I think, you know, a lot of people talk about the price of cement in Nigeria compared to other countries. When you invest in a cement factory in Nigeria, 1/5 the investment capital has to go to a power station, a 90-megawatt power station we have in Iwokoro. Most of the spares and machinery are actually imported, and we have to spend lead time to do that. But the biggest issue for us is the value chain, because actually the ex-factory prices haven't changed very much over the last 3 years. What happens is the street price of cement can go up very, very high. What we've been trying to do now is to try to understand the value chain. We came up with a project called Iroran, which is an affordable housing project for really low-cost housing for individual home builders. And what we do, understanding that there's a need to get access to finance, understanding that there's a need to manage the cost, and also understanding the need to manage the quality of the building, because often people get very much fleeced when they're doing a building project because they don't have the right experience. We came up with designs. We worked with French Development Bank and LAPO to provide microfinance loans for people to build bit by bit. We have trained technical people who will accompany every project at foundation level and going up to roofing level. They have to get the disbursement of the loan, they actually have to get a technical check, and they get support. So we believe that we want to expand this now. So far in Ogun State, we're only doing this in Ogun State so far, in Shagamu and Abeokuta, and we believe what we've done, I think we've affected about 1,300 people. By the end of this year, with this program now, it's moving at such a pace, we hope to be able to impact 15,000 people. So it's not just about mass housing, we've got some solutions for that as well, but it's about individual home building, managing the value chain, cutting out a lot of the middlemen, because the cement now comes directly from our distributors, and it doesn't have 2 and 3 and 4 layers of margin take from a middleman. So we believe this is a good project, it's a good model, and there's more things to be done in that.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I know that as part of the measures you're putting in place to reduce the cost of construction, you've recently introduced into the market ready-mix concrete. What other innovative products do you think it would be very useful in reducing the cost of construction?
Yeah, in Mexico, in South Africa, in Europe, most of the gray powder that these big cement factories, and by the way, Ogun State is the biggest cement producer in Africa. It's not just it's bigger than South Africa. It's bigger than any other place. This state alone. But what we've done is most of the gray powder goes into ready-mix concrete. Companies that produce ready-mix concrete, and until 2 years ago, there was no ready-mix concrete commercially available in Nigeria. We believe this is going to really improve the way quality and cost can be managed in the value chain. You can do a 2,000 cubic meter pour in 1 day. We've done that already in Nigeria. So this will speed up the delivery, speed up the quality, and bring costs down. I was talking to Tom earlier on, and in other parts of the world we have modular housing where we build precast concrete formwork that can then construct mass housing much, much quicker. We can really work on this, but we need a bit of partnership, I think, with the government and with some developers and some big contracting companies to get it going.
Great, thanks, Joe. Now going to General Reyes, with significant experience in developing estates, just like the one you've done in Lagos. The real issue is always the point about the affordability. What sort of innovative idea, just like it's been introduced in other countries like UK and the US, what sort of innovative ideas do you have in order just to bridge that affordability gap in terms of funding?
Oh, thank you. When we're talking about affordable housing and breaking new ground, I think that we are not talking about developing 100 unit or 200 unit housing estates.
Absolutely.
We are looking at large-scale, unprecedented development. Somebody pointed out to me the other day that since 1004 housing estate was built, there has been no other development that has done 1,000 units in one location. That stands to be corrected. So we can clearly see that the challenge is big, but there are ways of dealing with this. Other people have done it. We won't be the first to be faced with this challenge. There are so many impediments to solving the problem, but as you said, we should just focus on one of them, which is the affordability gap funding, which is the gap between the income of the intended beneficiaries and the cost of the housing. Mortgages will not take away that problem. If you have all the money in the world available for mortgages, have all your mortgage system functioning well, it will not take away the affordability gap funding problem. So what governments typically do will be to create innovative ways of bridging that gap. Sometimes it's with policy, as simple as policy. You can bridge that gap. Currently, the United Kingdom government has a scheme that has been talked about very much. Every day it's in the news. Help to Buy is for young people, up to £600,000. The government will guarantee part of the deposit. And it stimulated the housing delivery mechanism. Here we need to find our own ways to deal with the affordability gap problem. And there are ways in which we have done this locally. For example, what works is that traditionally, people have a way of dealing with it. What is not affordable by one person, what do? We come together. There's just cooperatives. So cooperatives is one viable way of dealing with the problem. And I think for that quotation that came up earlier on that says what cannot be done, the person who said it cannot be done is already being interpreted by the person who is doing it. I think His Excellency is already doing a bit of that. He has appointed a key cooperative person as his commissioner for housing. So if you focus on housing cooperatives and look at group mortgages, I think you can overcome the affordability gap problem. On the other side, government needs to create an enabling environment. Now, what are these enablers? A few of them. I think Akim has mentioned one key one, which is titling. It not only has to be secure, it has to be quick and affordable. On one hand, several government agencies talk about delivering affordable housing, yet the cost of title perfection is so high. It accounts for as much as 20-25% of the cost of the housing. So where is the affordability? The second area is industry restructure. Currently, there is no industry. Everybody is doing whatever they like. Government needs to step in and structure the housing industry so that developers know their rights and responsibilities. Off-takers also know their rights and responsibilities, and that will encourage investors to come into the market. With industry restructuring will come regulation. Who is the industry regulator right now in Ogun State or anywhere else for that matter? There is no industry regulator. So really, it's not the kind of environment that a serious investor would like to play in. So we need to deal about regulation. And then management. Where are the laws for managing gated communities? When you are talking about large-scale affordable housing, you must talk about condominiums, multiple occupation. Where are the laws? Where is the legislation governing large-scale condominium development? How do I know what to do? Elsewhere, if you owe service charge to your condominium, is regarded as a charge on your property. You are owing government money. Your flat can be sealed up. Here it is not the case. If I like, I can convert my flat into a place of worship, and there's nothing my neighbors can do about it. So government can do something about that. I'd like to conclude by telling you a story. We run by stories. As this story was told to me by my grandmother, who probably it was told to her to by her own grandmother. She said, long before Nodugat came, she's one of you, she came from Ijebu-Remo. She said that there were two salesmen who came from Europe. One went to East Africa, the other one came to West Africa. And they met people who were not wearing shoes. The man who went to East Africa said, I'm coming home because there is no market here. These people don't wear shoes. And he took the next ship back home to Europe. But the man who came to West Africa saw opportunities and said, look, divert all our production to West Africa because there is no competition here. So you may say that we don't have this, we don't have that for affordable housing.